Morse just sent me something. I'm afraid it cannot be at church today, so I will do the chalice lighting one. Blunt the sharpness and tie the knot, soften the glare, settle with the dust. I actually love that. Yes, yes, actually. And I'm going to leave this up here for me. Because then I can improvise. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You're going to sit there. Okay. That's great. Some people like to be up there. Actually, that's where I like it when I'm giving my talks. She just texted me she can't come, so I'm going to do her phone. I was looking out too. I'm glad I looked at my email. Okay, I'm going to go. Let us now settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet to be followed by the music of Step by Step by John McCutcheon.
Step by step along this march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly done, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly done. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly done, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly done. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly done, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly done. Step by step, the longest march can be won. singly none, singly none, singly none, singly none.
Linda Morse could not be with us this morning, but our speaking for the chalice lighting is from Tao Te Ching, the Taoist document. Blunt the sharpness, untie the knot, soften the glare, settle the dust. And now our introductory music.
In Minnesota when I grew up, every time it would snow, we had to shovel our whole driveway. We didn't have a snow blower. Once in a while our neighbor Joe saved us with his machine. I remember you, thank you Joe, you were a hero to me. Thanks for that neighborly love. On Sunday morning we'd all dress up and off to church we would go to learn all about the important stuff, important things we should know. And I didn't always understand the Bible stories back then, but I have to say one thing made sense that I heard again and again. I heard about neighborly love. Nowadays I find myself returning to lessons that so long ago I heard, because I am still trying and still learning how to live those very simple words, those very simple words. Every September that came around brought the first day of school. The teacher would make us say out loud the words of the golden rule. She said that's all you need to know to be kind and be good. Love your neighbor and remember that the whole world is your neighborhood. Remember that neighborly love.
Good morning. Good morning. That's what I like to hear, positive energy. And we're privileged to have the speaker today. Is Kai Flannery. Let's give a UUCW welcome to Kai Flannery, all right? Thank you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on challenges of the world. My name is David Fields, and I'm one of your worship associates for this morning. We begin by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the sea's ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc tribe. If you would like to learn more about the Nipmuc community, there's brochures in our foyer. We offer a special welcome to those of you who are new or visiting with us for the first time. We're delighted to have you here. We hope that you will join us in Fellowship Hall following the service. For information about the service or any of the ministries or programs of this congregation, please do not hesitate to ask. We invite you to fill out one of the cards found in the pews. If you're new, these cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you joining us online, we offer you a special welcome for safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better. As you are able, please place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of the attendance clipboards. Let's start that one around. Though you are not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and we will use it only for church purposes. And backside. There we go. Right. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you would like yours to be read aloud, please put it on an index card. These cards will be posted outside the office, minister's office. Again, this is a sabbatical service, so this is all amateur hour here. The professionals will be back. For those online, you can place a joy or sorrow in your chat, and we will share during the service. In the foyer, there are listening devices, large print service programs, hymnals for those who may find that they need assistance with the large print. Please see one of our ushers if you need any of those. I invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. Finally, please note the announcements on the back of the order of the service. There will be time for short announcements following the postlude. I are so glad you are here and hope that this morning is an opportunity for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation. Oh, and Mara has something to tell us.
I want to talk to you about the paper that you got about the private jet expansion. This private jet expansion is a very bad idea for the climate. Hi, my name is Mara Pentlarge. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Private jet expansion is a very bad idea for the climate. I mean, you can read it on here. Massport owns Hanscom Field. Massport also owns the Worcester Airport. And a spokesman for the Worcester Airport said in a Chamber of Commerce newsletter, we have lots of space too. So I would like the Worcester Airport, Massport, everyone to know how people in Worcester feel about the idea of an expansion at Hanscom or anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Our opening words this morning come from Kaiser Zaman, who was, in his time, a representative for the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees. Should a pebble in the stream be so small that it moves with the gentlest current. So small that it cannot stand its ground. So small it has no effect on the flow, tottering, faltering, rolling, gathering no moss. Or should it aspire to be so big a pebble that it obstructs the flow, a boulder, immobile, obstinate, obdurate, forcing the very stream to change its course? Or should it be a pebble at all? Should it be the stream itself, cascading, sometimes hurtling, sometimes flowing, gently, softly, peacefully, experiencing the pebbles, stones, and boulders, overcoming the ones it can, flowing around the ones it can't? In that spirit, please join me for opening hymn number 81. You might not have ever sung this one before. I don't think that I have, but I like it a lot. The Wordless Mountains Bravely Still.
So now if it's change for change, I believe, if we have the baskets. If you have change, raise your hand. The little ones will come around with their baskets. If we have a little one. Yes, we do. We have more big ones than little ones today. Okay. We got almost all the change. Almost all the change. There we go. All right, I think we'll wind it up. peace. Go now in peace. Go in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Okay, showtime.
Good morning, y'all. So I do want to say that typically I would try to speak for about 22 minutes. I think this is more like 25 minutes, and I'm really sorry, but if if you need to go, I understand. But yeah, I'm really glad to be with you all today. Blunt the sharpness, untie the knot, soften the glare, settle with the dust. The Tao Te Ching tells us these words of wisdom. As a hospital chaplain, I spend a lot of time looking for the right reading for a particular moment in people's lives. A moment of life or death, a moment of addiction or hopelessness, a moment of recovery or disappointment, joy, success. And I really can't think of much that's better for this moment, January of 2025, than the non-dual reading of the Tao Te Ching. Just as an example of that, my friend Joan's holiday card this year was a photo she had taken of the Bocca della Verità in Rome, the mouth of truth, a giant round stone with a giant carved face where the rumor is that if you put your hand in the mouth and then tell a lie, it will bite your hand off, which I thought was great. I was like, thank you, Joan, I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that for 2025. A little humor for us as we blunt the sharpness and untie the knot. I'll read a little further in the Tao Te Ching, verse 22, yield and overcome. Bend and be straight, empty and be full. Wear out and be new. Have little and gain. Have much and be confused. Wise people not putting on a display, they shine forth. Not justifying themselves, they are distinguished. Not boasting, they receive recognition. Be really whole, and all things will come to you. There are instances I bet you can think of that apply to some of these, where you've emptied yourself out and you feel really full in your heart, where you've worn yourself out and you feel new. And diving into some of these non-dualities make me think of the act of pilgrimage. Because as anyone knows who's gone on a long journey, a long spiritual journey, the literal end goal is never the point. The wholeness is always in the moments along the journey. As Thomas Merton put it, we must not depend on hope of results. As we start to understand that, we start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value, the rightness, the truth of the work itself. So I've thought today of some stories of butterflies flapping their wings in different parts of the world in terms of pilgrimage. It is a pilgrimage, I believe, to honor our sanctuaries in the tradition of Rachel Carson. She was born on a farm in Springdale, Pennsylvania, 18 miles north of Pittsburgh on the Allegheny River. She started out as an English major, as did I. I don't know, maybe many of us here. She moved into biology. She became a biologist. And at one point, she started writing books about the ocean. One of them, she is described as like a biography of the sea, saying all the things that went into making the ocean, called The Sea Around Us. A friend who was concerned about her own neighborhood and her own ecosystem encouraged Rachel to write about pesticides, including DDT, which was something people were using in their kitchens at that point. So Rachel spent 6 years documenting and writing the book Silent Spring. One of the lines she wrote, "Over increasingly large areas of the United States, spring now comes unheralded by the return of birds, and the early mornings are strangely silent where once they were filled with the beauty of birdsong." Her book Silent Spring began as a series of articles in the New Yorker magazine. And many consider her voice and her research as the start of the modern environmental movement, pushing us to ask who is asserting a truth to the public and why, what their reasons might be, and whether we agree with those reasons or not. She named names and told stories and included 50 pages of sources. Carson really encouraged us to know the places we love well enough to notice when a bird song is missing or a frog's croak, well enough to see what isn't spoken in words. She was, after the publishing of that book, subsequently called a communist and an hysterical woman, not joking, by chemical manufacturers. She died 2 years after the publishing of the book itself, still defending her book. She didn't really get to see it become this well-respected classic, but she made her pilgrimage. The way that DDT had made these ripples in communities, Rachel noticed them and spoke about them and interviewed government workers that she had good relationships with and compiled data, and in doing so made huge ripples of her own that connected each of these communities together. Telling local stories, she built a movement and sparked a conversation. Today, on the webpage of the American Chemical Society, her book is celebrated. There's a national chemical landmark placed at her university. And what they say about it is this: Carson's scientific perspective and rigor created a work of such depth and credibility that it sparked debate within the scientific community and the broader public about pesticides in the natural world. These discussions led to policies that protect our air, our water, and ultimately our health and safety. Carson's book promoted a paradigm shift in how chemists practice their discipline and helped to establish a new role for chemists in investigating the impact of human activity on the environment. The people who at that moment saw her as an enemy, her work spoke so clearly to their health and survival too, and their humanity, all of ours, that it connected them to a better way of doing their own work, a wider view. And so I'll say, if you're interested in environmental topics, as Mara mentioned, there is a Side with Love group that meets every other Tuesday here online for the Worcester area that takes up these topics of local importance. And private jets are very inefficient and do have a huge carbon footprint. Not a lot of payoff for everyone. So I would say that as we go into pilgrimage at this time, we might also follow in the footsteps of Thich Nhat Hanh, who made his life as a Vietnamese monk into a pilgrimage of rebuilding what is broken, and practicing love in action. There are so many legs to his journey that it's really actually hard for me to put them here. I can't do that, but there are so many good articles. You should check him out. His life story is incredible. But so he's studying and writing. Along the way, he meets Martin Luther King Jr. and all the way along, he's calling for unity and organized nonviolent social action, resistance. He was in Vietnam speaking out against the Vietnam War so eloquently that he was actually nobody's favorite person. The South Vietnamese did not like him. The North Vietnamese did not like him. The US did not like him because he spoke out against colonialism. There were all of these folks. Nobody, his own Buddhist folks did not want to hear that they could all come together as a Buddhist community. They wanted to stay in their little, what's that word where you put the grain? Thank you. They wanted to stay in their silos. Yep. And the rich and powerful didn't like him either, because he spoke out. He said out loud that they were kind of inviting in the project of making from the United States and other world powers for their own profit, which was happening. So yeah, he would not have had a lot of friends on Facebook for a while. But when you listen to his soft voice on a meditation, or as he's speaking some wisdom on a YouTube video, just know that his soft voice, his voice of love, was like this insistent bumblebee, right? He was persistent and serious about peace and unity, about ending violence. At one point, I mean, it doesn't mean that he wasn't hurt or angry by all the things that were happening in his homeland and across the world. But specifically, he chose Vietnam because it became such a hub of everybody's desire to like gain power over one another. And at one point he wrote, the war has destroyed not only human lives, but human values as well. So he's talking about how the power struggle caused people to actually forget who they were as humans. But I specifically want to speak to his School of Youth for Social Services, which is something that it was part school at a college and part like university club. And basically what they went around to do was, whenever someplace had been bombed, a community center, a home, they went around and they rebuilt it. They would go, and wherever there was this chaos, they sort of became like a force of rebuilding chaos. Like, wow, that community center is back. Wow, all the things that had been gone and that bring our hearts down, that you're like, oh, that's his group of college students were coming in and just like coming with good energy and like building this back up again. And then often, I read that things would be bombed sometimes twice by different sides and all these things. And he didn't lose his hope. They just didn't lose their energy around that. And they didn't blame one side or the other, because they knew that it was bigger than one side or another. And I love that chaos had moved with them from a destructive force to a constructive one. Just who knew when a rebuilt home or a community center would pop up next? At some point after that, there was a Catholic regime in place, and in the south of Vietnam, and they outlawed the celebration of the Buddha's birthday, called Vesak, trying to claim Vietnam as a Catholic nation, which is sort of what colonists had brought in. Instead, Thich Nhat Hanh and his friends organized the largest Vesak celebration that was ever recorded in Vietnam that year. The threat of violence was not enough to stop the practice of open joy, of community and joy. So Thich Nhat Hanh met Martin Luther King at Columbia University. They had lots of conversations. They were in similar battles. And in 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. actually nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for the Nobel Peace Prize. He wrote to the committee, "I do not personally know of anyone more worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize than this gentle monk from Vietnam. His ideas for peace, if applied, would build a monument to ecumenism," so to all groups of one faith working together, and then more broadly, many faiths working together, to world siblinghood, to humanity. It's a pretty good recommendation from a pretty important person. He didn't get that prize. You know what? They didn't even have a prize that year for the Nobel Peace Prize. They just were like, no, we're not gonna. They just didn't award one that year. I know. Still later, in 1975, he was at a conference in Singapore when Thich Nhat Hanh realized that the Singaporean government was turning away Vietnamese boat people fleeing the change in regime in Vietnam, putting them back into the ocean at the mercy of weather and pirates and sun and hunger. He's there at a conference, and he arranges an underground support system for refugees which would get them on the ground and probably to a jail, but at least to a jail where they would be fed and survive. Illegally, enlisting Singaporean sailors who were out on the ocean and didn't want to watch people drown. Giving those guys away, those sailors, a way to do what their heart was already telling them was right, but their government was telling them was wrong. Among other things, Thich Nhat Hanh has hosted retreats for US veterans of the Vietnam War to support healing and reconciliation. And his work continues. He has died, but there's so much work of his that moves forward in the world. In 2009, in rural Vietnam, there were some attacks on the monasteries there. Local people were impoverished, felt that the monasteries were to blame in some way, and so monastics were kicked out of their monasteries and made to leave through people showing up with sticks and clubs. And those are folks who survive on gifts. They don't live a fancy life, right? But this nun shares the story of one of their attackers getting hurt while attacking everything. He's like got a big cut down his arm. And the nuns rush to care for him out of their broken first aid kit. And his face, where he's just looking at them and realizing he was lost in this delusion of hate and attacking, and they care for him right there. He realizes that they still loved him even after everything he had done. So we are pilgrims of rebuilding tenaciously. That is a pilgrimage. That can take a lifetime. And it is a long road from here to where we're going. A Buddhist teacher in the Dharma Punk school once said that when we practice equanimity, which is like allowing things to be as they are and still being ourselves, right? Still bringing our best self, even though things are exactly the way they are. He said that was, and this was several years ago, but he said that practice would be being able to say a metta blessing, a loving kindness blessing to Obama, Osama, and your mama. That was, so kind of all over the spectrum of who you're thinking of and what kind of energy you have to offer them. So Thich Nhat Hanh's work on unifying Buddhists in Vietnam, I think also, he was really doing a lot to speak to what do we have in common? How do we smooth the edges? And I think that we as UUs have a lot of practice doing this work already. You can look at our services, you can look at our hymn book. We have practice speaking many languages of faith and crossing over to visions to find the principles that unite us. And I think what is amazing too is that this deep connectedness within Vietnam for Thich Nhat Hanh became huge. His deep commitment now spans the world. He has done work in many nations and helped support nonviolent movements in many places. He was exiled from Vietnam in the mid-60s, which no doubt brought him grief and terror in that moment, but also later for years. But it also freed him to do international peace work. And I love that Peter Mayer song, where he says, "The whole world is your neighborhood." I really like that for us. If we're continuing to walk this pilgrimage, there are folks who leave us footsteps that show us it is pilgrimage too to walk each other home. Dame Cicely Saunders started the hospice movement in England, and lifting up the ways in which hearts and minds, as well as bodies, were hurting. She lifted up the ways that we could make a death a homecoming, a rest, rather than a failure of medicine or a time of panic. And I think it's good to talk right now about hospice work in the wake of an election that has gutted many of us, where the future of our natural world is changing and we're seeing it, and it's unlikely that that's a good change. Faithfulness in our accompaniment of one another is another way of practicing pilgrimage. If you've participated in hospice either as a worker or as a patient or as a family member, you know that when we have accepted the fact of dying, we start to rethink hope and healing and what they really are. Because our hearts need those. Our hearts need hope and healing in writ large. But if hope doesn't mean that everything's getting better, and healing doesn't mean that the situation is fixed or our body is fixed, then these words take on kind of an undefinable quality that also includes acceptance, right? They become bigger than this one situation, and they become bigger than us getting what we want. Ram Dass, who's another favorite teacher who also had a great sense of humor, he also did hospice work, and he spoke about that kind of accompaniment in this way: we're all just walking each other home. So I would invite you all at this moment, and I'll invite this again a little later, but to just take a moment, because one of the teachings of hospice from a Roshi who at Upaya, Joan Halifax, is that when we are practicing this work of accompaniment, we need to have a strong back and a soft front. So I would invite you to just breathe with me at this moment. If there's something that's coming up for you, fear, then you lean into that strong back. And as you breathe, if something like resistance is coming up for you, then you lean into that soft front, that allowing for whatever is coming to be here, allowing for that thing to be present as we are held up by our strong back. This is effective in spaces where other people are really hurting, or violent, or afraid, or when we ourselves are angry, or violent, or afraid. Just breathe in. Let us feel both at once our strong back and our soft, compassionate front, both working together. And if you would like to rejoin the group, I'll offer you a Thich Nhat Hanh quote. Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the whole earth revolves. Slowly, evenly, without rushing to the future. Each moment of our lives can be that cup of tea. Another person who has walked this pilgrimage path of walking one another home is Inga Muscio. She wrote a tiny, amazing, beautiful book whose title is a 4-letter word I cannot say in church. And in a Unitarian church, you know that is saying something also. But she acknowledged in this book the real danger of living in a world where oppression is real. She said that is not a myth, and we're not just worrying about things that aren't happening. We need to walk each other home to stay safe. Those of us who feel able and strong and should never hesitate to offer to walk someone so they are safe. Our vulnerable people, our elders, female-bodied people, Inga Musio was the first person I ever read to say that she had grown up reading all books by men, and now she was spending a year only reading books by women, non-binary, and trans folks. And I did that, actually, and it's changed my life in this lovely way. So let's walk our neighbors home. And I'll also point out that this question of who is my neighbor has been tricky ever since Jesus said it in the red letters. He told the story of the Good Samaritan, a person who was looked down on and discriminated against, maybe like a Bengali worker in Dubai, seeing a wealthy businessman who's been attacked by thieves and chooses to stop and help him, find him a place to stay, bind his wounds. In many cases, it's perfectly reasonable to look at the neighbor that we're faced with and say, you want me to walk who home? That person? I think one of the scary things right now about walking our neighbors home in a metaphorical or a physical sense is that ignorance and aggression are a form of violence. They feel like they will stomp over us and not notice the love we're offering. And for some people, maybe they will. But our love is not powerless or weak. So in those situations, I think we can say two things to our hearts. One comes from Pema Chodron. Like, if you just look at her list of book titles, just pick one. When Things Fall Apart, The Places That Scare You, The Wisdom of No Escape, Welcoming the Unwelcome. It goes on. She teaches that there is strength and courage in welcoming what is not welcome. That we get very good at being with ourselves and very good at being with each other. And one other perspective for our heart comes from Thomas Merton. Again, this Catholic priest who upset his own denomination, caused a lot of things, but really became larger than his own denomination and reached into meditation and Buddhism. He writes, "Our job is to love others without stopping to inquire whether they are worthy. That is not our business, and in fact, it's nobody's business. What we are asked to do is to love, and this love itself will render both ourselves and our neighbors worthy." I'd like to close by talking about the author of our opening words, Kaiser Zaman. He changed nationality 3 to 4 times, depending on how you look at it. In the time of partition of India, he was an Indian living as a Pakistani in a Pakistani state, which then turned into Bangladesh and a Bangladeshi passport for him. Then he started working with the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, and he ended his life living as a US citizen. And so I just think his journey also draws us into that poem in a different way. Should it be a pebble at all? Or should the pebble become the stream itself, sometimes cascading or hurtling or flowing gently, softly, peacefully, experiencing the pebbles and stones and even boulders, overcoming the ones it can, flowing around the ones it can't. The Tao Te Ching tells us that the highest good is like water, for water benefits the 10,000 things without striving. So when we hear that, I'd like us to just breathe for another minute with our strong back and our soft front. How do we benefit the 10,000 things in our strength of without striving? Allow the in-breath to lengthen your back. Allow the out-breath to soften your front. The in-back pulls us into strength. The out-breath softens us to hold with compassion that which is here. Doesn't mean that we don't put effort into our work. It means that we are deeply what we are. Who we are is nourishing to us and to others. Who we are is insightful, not just strategic. Who we are is connected to each other. So connected that our natural wisdom shines through without trying. If we can return to the room. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, if you pour a handful of salt into a cup of water, the water becomes undrinkable. But if you pour the salt into a river, people can continue to draw the water, to cook, to wash, to drink. The river is immense, and it has the capacity to receive, to embrace, to transform. When our hearts are small, our understanding and compassion are limited, and we suffer. We can't accept or tolerate others and their shortcomings. We demand that they change. But when our hearts expand, these same things don't make us suffer anymore. We have a lot of understanding and compassion. We can embrace others. We accept others as they are, and then they have a chance to transform. These are not just butterflies flapping their wings in one corner of the world. These are butterflies on a pilgrimage, returning to the path again and again, weathering disappointment, finding joy. We can protect our sanctuaries, like Rachel Carson. Maybe there is a bird whose song you need to hear and come to depend on hearing. You can speak for that bird. You can speak for those trees. We can, like Thich Nhat Hanh and his students, rebuild tenaciously, become a chaotic force of healing and rebuilding. We can pop up again and again like weeds. This breath in our body does not guarantee us a quiet life. It doesn't guarantee us peace. Those who tear down, though, if we're tenacious, will not be able to keep up with the seeds and new shoots that we plant and nurture. Like Ram Dass and Inga Musio and Dame Cicely Tyson, we also can walk each other home. Maybe there's a cup of tea you need to have with a neighbor, slowly and reverently, as if this is the axis on which the earth revolves. And like Kaiser Zaman and many refugees, we can be the stream. Maybe there is a conflict that comes to your mind where you need to stop being the pebble and start being the entire stream. Invite that in. We can do that. I'll close with words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must accept finite disappointments, but we must never lose our infinite hope. May it be so, friends. Amen. And thank you for sticking with me. Thank you.
We now pause our service for our own offering. A financial offering to continue the mission and ministries of this congregation. I invite you to participate in our offering as the plate comes around and give as it makes you feel good. For visitors or newcomers, please consider this service our gift to you this morning, and there is no need to contribute. For those joining us online, or if you wish to contribute digitally, you can participate in our offering by either texting 508-232-5331 or by visiting uucworcester.org/donate and following the instructions given there. I'm standing before you today as a member of the stewardship team, and it's nearly that time again. This year's upcoming UUCW pledge drive is going to be themed Defying Gravity. It will invite members to soar together in generosity and in love, drawing inspiration from Wicked, the recent musical movie that celebrates breaking boundaries and embracing bold visions. We will not this year have a single Stewardship Sunday, but sprinkled among a number of the sabbatical services will be special features to infuse the pledge drive with creative energy, including a Wicked-themed musical element featuring congregants. I now invite the usher and greeter to pass the offertory plates, and this is a recorded piece. No, Betty Genuine, I'm not singing a solo today, but because Kai picked such an awesome song, I think we should all hum and sing along if we like it and know it.
We are gentle and brave people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle and brave people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Come on, with lots of harmony.
For your generosity today. We come to that time in our service when we pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts. Milestones, joys, sorrows that touch us deeply and are given a stronger meaning by sharing them with our community, our congregation. I invite you to come to either side of the sanctuary and form lines, step to the microphone so those using our auditory enhancement devices can participate in this ritual. If you're online and would like to share something, please put it in the chat, preceded by "please read," and those will be shared during our service. I invite Cheryl Lachey to come forward to share some very important congregational news.
I have the honor and also the sadness to share with you that last week we lost 3 people. We lost Ed Clary, who has been part of our congregation in many of our memories. We also found out that we had lost Marilyn Franklin, and she was shortly followed by her own daughter, Holly Franklin. They both are going to be celebrated in a service of memorial sometime this spring when Erin returns. The service for Ed Clary will be on Valentine's Day in the morning. I would love to hear stories of these folks if you have them, because Ed I remember, but Marilyn I only crossed paths with a couple of times, and Holly I have known mostly in the last 3 weeks. So I invite you to come talk to me about that during coffee hour. I also want to thank from the bottom of my heart the sabbatical team. Y'all need to use them. They're amazing. They have helped me through trying to figure out how to do all the bits and pieces of this, and I am deeply, deeply grateful.
I'm Deb Bono. Some of you have known me for a while. Some of you knew my parents, Shirley and Walter Irvine. The journey I want to talk about this morning is regarding my dad's hospice. He was sick for many years with a blood disorder. Many of you, when you knew him then, he had it already, but he was coping. Unfortunately, eventually turned into leukemia, which he had been told would likely happen. That's when he decided to pull the plug. And he called us all together and he said, I'm going into hospice. I can't do this anymore. We tried to talk him out of it. We felt like it was too soon. He'd missed a couple treatments for the leukemia and he was feeling really badly, but we figured a few more treatments and he'd be okay again. But he was firm in his decision. This was it, he wanted to go. The doctor told us he had a week once he stopped the transfusions and all the other medications. So we gathered around his bed to talk about this process, this journey of hospice. And he turned to my older sister, Chris, who was a banker her whole life, and he said, I feel comfortable leaving you in charge of the finances of this family. It's not complicated, it's quite simple. As if you knew my dad, it was perfectly laid out. And I just want you to carry the torch for that part of my need. Then he turned to my younger sister, Felice, who's an OT, has been all her life. She's a caretaker, consummate caretaker. And she was with him till the very end, taking care of him before he went into hospice and after, for many, many months. So he turned to me and I said, I'm a music teacher, I do drama. What can I do to help your journey? And he said, make us laugh. Make this joyful. Make this something we all remember for a long, long time. My daughters and son, who are now grown up, talk about it all the time. It was a joyful, wonderful, scary. At one point, he had lapsed into a coma, and my sisters were sitting vigil around his bed, when suddenly he sat up and he said, what is this thing called hostage? I don't understand what's happened. Hospice, not hostage. Hospice, I don't understand. I hope I do. So we gently tried to explain it to him, all of us going in the background, because we thought he truly understood what his choice meant. And as soon as we told him, he said, that's good, and fell back asleep again. That's the last time he said anything till he died. So we had, and I remember very vividly, I was sitting around his bed when he was dying. We didn't know he was quite at that stage yet, but it was very close, watching Ellen on TV. And I'm laughing. I'm the only one there. Everybody else has gone about their business in his house. We were all spent the week in his house. And I said to a dear friend of mine later, I feel so badly I was laughing when he was dying. And she said, you know, that might have allowed him to let go. That might have been what he needed to hear in the end, was that you were still carrying on this spirit of life that's so part of this family. And I'm grateful to you for that. So I'm hoping that was the way to interpret that. And I've been thinking about this passage, and several of you know already that I'm going through a really difficult passage of my own. My husband of 47 years has primary progressive aphasia. I said to him in the car this morning, David, he's very frustrated at times, we have to just embrace, I hear this all the time, but suddenly hit me really hard what it meant. Embrace where you are right now, because this changes every day. And every day is wonderful and difficult and sometimes unbearable, but we do get through again with a lot of joy and laughter, and my children are very happy to support that with us as well. So I'm a great believer in these journeys, considering the one I'm taking right now. Thank you.
My name is Linda, and a lot of you here, especially those I have on Facebook, know I'm a cat person. I am very, very happy to report that 14-year-old Roxy made it through with shining colors on her dental treatment she's had. She had to have 4 teeth extracted, and when I brought her home, she was almost back to normal. Thank you for healing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Armstrong. I'm lighting a candle today for a few friends of mine and then for thousands and thousands of other people in this country who've been kind of thrown into uncertainty this past week with jobs being cut and because of the executive orders, projects stopped, immigration statuses questioned. And I'm just, like probably a lot of you here, trying to find my footing and figure out what is my role this time around. So I really appreciated this service and the concept of the pilgrimage. But yeah, just trying to keep everybody who's feeling very, very uncertain about everything in my heart.
Hi, I'm Mara Pentlarge again. I'm very excited. I'm going to be leading a hike today at 12:30. We're going to walk on the snow. There are 3 places in Worcester where there are rocks significant to Native American people, Nipmuc people. We're meeting at 12:30 at Nick's Woods. Talk to me about it if you want.
I'm Deb Van Battenberg. This is joyful. So Thursday night there was a gala, what we have always called the Worcester Historical Society. Well, guess what? It has a new name. That was the big announcement Thursday night, along with costumed people who were, Abby Kelly and Frances Perkins and Major Taylor. But this is the new brochure, the new logo. Arrive curious, leave fascinated. I'm up here to let you know that a company in Worcester has given free admission for 1 year. We can all go for free. They've redone every gallery. It's so exciting. We took the grandkids yesterday. They had a treasure hunt to do. They were so engaged. They learned so much. So please support this city. It is on Elm Street, on the corner of Elm. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Laura. I lit a candle today for a hawk named Edward now. I don't know if she's all over the news, this angel called Jess Zorge, who runs Raptor Tail Rescue of Shrewsbury. They get a call that a hawk, his tail feathers and wing feathers were severed, and he was just sitting on a wood pile. So now, thankfully, he's in the right hands, but it takes about 2 years for those flight feathers to come back. So he's going to need, of course, now Edward, jokingly, Edward Scissorhands. If you ever see Raptor Tail Rescue, she takes in all the hawks that unfortunately ingest rodents that we don't want, but they are eating rat bait. She's unfortunately taking an array of swans and ducks that have the avian flu right now. So if you ever want to check it out.
I appreciate this time. I just wanted to say that today is the birthday of my grandma Louise, who passed, but she was a really important person to me. She died at 103. She would have been like 108 today. So I just want to celebrate her, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
It's in there pretty good. Don't worry, Susan can make it up here. Come on, round this way. No rolling over the wire.
Oh, please. Rolled over bigger things than that. So hi, Susan Crosley. 2 years ago, I got up here and talking about
my grandson, and how he was just this like amorphous blob, and how I had forgotten how blobby they were as a newborn, right? So now he's 2, and he's no longer any kind of amorphous blob. He has mastered no. And I have to tell you, it is such a joy to watch my daughter. She's very good, but no, no. And it's like, yes. Okay.
That's lovely. Are there any online joys or sorrows or milestones? No, okay. I have one I'm going to end with. As a member of the sabbatical task force, and more importantly, as a member of this congregation, I want to heartfully thank David Fields for volunteering to be January's worship coordinator. We were used to our minister, to our ways, to our routines, and change is hard. Our congregation is strong, in many ways strong, and will benefit from our called minister's sabbatical by exercising our own autonomy, by grappling with change. And I want to thank David, who I don't have in my eyes right now somewhere, but thank him for volunteering for this. No, that's okay. With all that has been said, and for all that remains unsaid this morning, we pause to reflect on things that touch us deeply, that bring us sadness, that bring us gladness. Let's remember we are not alone, that we are indeed loved. Help us to be mindful of this when we are apart from each other and when we feel most alone. Give us strength and courage to face the coming days with hope and courage that we can do what we must, and give us moments of rest and rejuvenation for the journey forward. We pray this in the name of all that is holy and true and right and real. And we have a musical interlude by Holly Near again. Good choice on the music, Kai. I Am Open and I Am Willing by Holly Near.
This is a song I love, and I will say that I often sing it at the hospital, so it has a lot of context as part of it, and it also has singing to people who are not well, or singing to people who are wanting to heal, or singing to people who are struggling to let go. So, I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up in the light of change. There is hurting in my family, there is hunger in my town, there is panic all across the nation, there is wailing the whole world round. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up in the light children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though they hurt our eyes. For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up in the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fear. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. Would you like to join me at the end? For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up in the light of change. Lift me up in the light of change. Thank you, friends. Please join me in singing our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. What is our life? We sing our lives and praise, for all life is a gift, which we are all to use, to build a common and make our own ways for souls that just for services we give, for work that brings rewards, for hearts of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. All that is our for sorrows we must bear, for failures pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our we sing our thanks and praise, for all that is our gift, which we are called to use, to build a common and make our ways Our benediction comes from poet and yoga practitioner Dana Faulds. There's no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt or containing a tornado. Try damming a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in. The wild, the weak our fear, our fantasies, our failures and success. When loss rips off the doors of the heart or sadness veils our vision with despair. Practice becomes simply bearing the truth. In the choice to let go of our known way of being, the whole world is revealed to our new eyes. May it be so. Go in peace.
In the interest of time, during our postlude, we may want to exit toward Fellowship Hour, which has been graciously established for us. Thank you.
Oh,